Oftentimes, our sites and other digital experiences have some kind of authentication in front of them that we can then use to secure various resources and or target content to users with specific roles and other attributes. So in this video, what I want to do is really quickly cover some of the basics around securing content, and then more importantly, focus on how as authors we can use the Crafter Studio tools and experience builder to test those scenarios through a tool we have called audience targeting. So let's start with just setting up some basic authentication requirements. Now in Crafter Engine, there are a few ways to do this, and so I'll refer you to the documentation on the full scope of the various approaches to securing your content. But one of the mechanisms that we have is to configure Crafter Engine to protect a whole class of URLs through a sort of policy. And that's the one that we're going to use today. So let's focus on that. Now, what I am working in here is the editorial blueprint, and this blueprint is available in our marketplace. And so everything that you see in this video here today, you can try on your own. Now, let's go ahead and look at the configuration. So we're going to go to Project Tools and then to Configuration, and I'm going to search for Engine and then go to Engine Project Configuration. And here you can see we've defined a security policy, and in that policy we've set up URL restrictions, and we have a restriction configured for a class of URLs that is /articles and then everything underneath it, and an expression that is authenticated. So we're basically saying if you're any content under /articles, you require some form of authentication in order to access that resource. And of course, you can be much more sophisticated in terms of your restriction patterns and your expressions. We have has role and other authentication expressions you can use to finely tune your authentication. So now that we have this in place, we can go and test it. So what I'm going to do is minimize this, and here you can see this is articles, and then we've got some years and some months and then some content. And if I click on one of these articles, because I'm not authenticated, I get this error page that says the page you're looking for does not exist. Now, what's happening here in the editorial blueprint is that we are trying to redirect the user to a /login page, and that page does not exist in the blueprint. Okay, it's fairly simple to add a login page. You could do that by going to our marketplace, potentially, and installing a login page, or you could create a content type for a login page and build your own template for that. So it's very easy to do that. In order to sort of save time here, what I'm going to do is just go to this health page here, and I'm going to right click and say duplicate. So we're just going to create another page that's very similar to this one and call that our login page. And in a sense, we're just making a placeholder. So we're going to say this is the URL for this is login, and then the internal name is login. And then in this content model, they have a nav label, title, and an article's title. And the article's title is what we really see on the page. And so that's the one that I really want to make sure that we can see it. So this one's important. This, of course, is important because this is where we're being redirected. And then the internal name is what we see in the studio tools. So those are important as well. So let's go ahead and save that now. So you can see here we have a login page here. If we click on it, it says login, so we know we're being redirected to the login page. And if now we click on one of these articles when we're not authenticated, we get redirected to our quote-unquote login page. So security now in Crafter Engine is working as we expect, but I want to now test what happens when I am authenticated. So in Crafter Studio, as an author, of course, I don't want to create users that have roles and then sort of log in with those roles and test. That's laborious. What I want to do is just emulate the user and test how their experience would be on my in my site, in my project, or my application, or whatever I am managing content for. So let's go to audience targeting here, and you can see that there's a user role field that we've configured, a segment field, and then name. And of course, in audience targeting, if you've looked at this feature at all, you can configure any number of properties that you want to emulate. In this case, the only two that matter on the site really are username and segment, and then the name appears up in the greeting if you set it. Okay, now how do I configure this? Well, very simply, go to Project Tools, go back to Configuration, and instead of using the engine keyword, we're going to use the UI keyword. That'll filter this list down to User Interface Configuration. And then if I scroll down here, you can see that we have a widget inside of this right-hand bar that is the preview panel audience panel, and it has fields. Okay, so you can see here that the first field is authorized role, and we can see all the various options: anonymous, role A, role B, and so on. Then we see another field for segment, right? So we can see that whole field and the options that are available there. And then we see our last field, which is name. And you can see that's an input box. So it's much more simple because there's no options to describe there. So we place this little bit of XML in the UI configuration, and that drives this panel. And that allows us then to go and assume a role. So we're going to go ahead and apply that role. And then when we click on the content, we can get right to it. So this is a great way for us to now test the security. And of course, we can go on to test attributes that user might have, like segment here, by going to the home page. And here we can see that we've got articles that are, targeted towards both types of users, styles for men, styles for women. And then if I say, well, but this user is interested in styles for men, and then I apply that, then you can see here that my featured articles is filtered down to just content that would be um, targeted towards that segment. So this is just a really quick overview on this audience targeting capability and how it can apply to both attributes of a user, like a segment, and also roles and security roles. Thank you very much, and happy crafting.